Welcome to MUSE+MUSE, where we pay tribute to the remarkable figures and moments that have inspired generations of creativity and identity. Today, we explore the life and legacy of a woman who became one of the most iconic muses of the 20th century, Bettie Page. Known as the Queen of Pinups, Betty's allure and fearless personality broke boundaries in a restrictive era, influencing fashion, art, and modern feminism. Step back into the 1950s, an era marked by post-war conservatism, when society championed traditional family values and rigidly defined gender roles. Amid this backdrop, Bettie Page emerged as a breath of fresh air, a magnetic figure who captured the male gaze and defied it at the same time. Betty's career as a pinup model began in the early 50s after being discovered by Jerry Tibbs, a New York police officer and amateur photographer. Tibbs suggested Betty cut her bangs, and thus her trademark look was born, a detail that would become almost as iconic as her playful poses. Though her career was brief, Betty's images radiated something other pinups of the time didn't, an unapologetic confidence. She was unafraid to look directly into the camera, an act that suggested she was aware of her power. Betty's poses, both in traditional pinup style and the bondage-themed shoot she became known for, were both cheeky and coy, embodying a freedom and control over her own image. Her charm lay in her paradoxical mix of innocence and daring, a woman who could be equal parts girl next door and femme fatale. Bettie Page's legacy aligns with the ideals of modern feminism. Although she wasn't a political figure, her work as a pinup model pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable for women in her time. She owned her image, took control of her sexuality, and chose to present herself on her terms. Her images, many of which were provocative for the era, were acts of defiance, celebrating the female form without apology. Bettie Page inadvertently became a precursor to the feminist movement, inspiring women to embrace and express their sexuality without shame. Betty's career also encouraged women to question societal standards. For her, posing was an art form, a way to celebrate her body and her independence. She created her own narrative of empowerment, unwittingly embodying the spirit of second-wave feminism that would come to the fore a decade later. Bettie Page's impact extended beyond her role as a model and muse. She also played a pivotal role in elevating another remarkable woman of her time, photographer Bunny Yeager. Originally a pinup model herself, Yeager transitioned into photography in the 1950s, a move that was uncommon for women in a male-dominated industry. When Bunny met Betty in 1954, their collaboration would become iconic. Yeager's unique eye for capturing female beauty and her understanding of Betty's allure created some of the most memorable and enduring images in pinup history. Their work together brought new dimensions to Betty's image, particularly in Yeager's famous shots of Betty posing with leopards and in her jungle-themed bikini, a style Yeager herself had crafted. Unlike many male photographers who focused on a male gaze, Yeager's photos were imbued with a sense of empowerment and respect. Yeager allowed Betty to be both strong and playful, resulting in images that highlighted Betty's confidence and natural ease in front of the camera. These photos, often taken in natural settings like Florida's beaches, presented Betty as not just a model, but as a powerful, self-assured woman. Through her work with Betty, Yeager also rose to fame, becoming one of the most celebrated female photographers of her time. But it was her partnership with Betty that allowed her to break through significant barriers. Their collaboration serves as a rare example in mid-century popular culture of women supporting and elevating each other in their respective creative fields. For Betty, Bunny Yeager was more than a photographer. She was a kindred spirit, and together they helped each other forge a legacy that has continued to inspire artists, photographers, and women in creative industries today. Just as Betty was reaching the height of her fame, she disappeared. By 1957, she had retired from modeling and slipped into anonymity. To the public, her sudden vanishing act was baffling, especially since she left just as she was becoming a household name. For decades, Betty's fans searched for her, a mystery that only deepened her mystique. Her fans longed to know what happened to her and sought to understand the woman behind the iconic imagery. During her absence, Betty's image only grew more influential. Her pinup poses were reprinted, copied, and adapted as emblems of the rebellious, untamed femininity she represented. Betty's departure allowed people to project their ideas onto her, a mirror, creating also a myth that transcended her real-life struggles and challenges. She became a symbol of strength for women navigating their own paths outside society's expectations. Interest in Betty's story surged again in the 1980s, particularly after the Rocketeer comic book, published in 1982, introduced a character modeled on her look and spirit. Created by Dave Stevens, The Rocketeer paid homage to Betty's iconography and introduced her to a whole new generation. The comic brought Betty's look, her blunt bangs, red lips, and carefree smile, back into the public eye, sparking a renaissance that established her as a cult figure. In 2005, the notorious Bettie Page, a biographical film starring Gretchen Mol, was released and further revived interest in her life story. The film explored Betty's transformation from a reserved young woman into an icon of sexual liberation, emphasizing her role as a pioneer of women's sexual empowerment. Though Betty passed away in 2008, her image remains a powerful force in pop culture, particularly among women who feel drawn to her unapologetic embrace of femininity and confidence. Here are women who have been influenced by Bettie Page's look, aesthetic, and spirit. Today, Betty's image is instantly recognizable and continuously celebrated. Her likeness graces posters, clothing lines, tattoos, and more, proving that her influence has endured across decades and continues to evolve. Betty's image as a liberated, unapologetic woman has inspired countless adaptations and interpretations, from high-fashion editorials to pop art and graphic novels. She is seen as a pioneer of alternative beauty, an advocate, if inadvertently, for the empowerment of women's sexuality, and a muse for women who feel called to challenge conventions. Her life story also resonates deeply with the modern fascination of reclaiming one's narrative. In the 21st century, women are more than ever encouraged to take ownership of their stories and bodies, and Bettie Page is a reminder that this concept has long roots. She was the embodiment of self-expression, unafraid to challenge society's constraints on women, long before these ideas were widely embraced. Bettie Page emerged in the 1950s like a mirror, reflecting a revolutionary vision of femininity back to a world steeped in conformity. At a time when women were expected to embody demure modesty and domesticity, Betty's unapologetic embrace of her body, its curves, vitality, and inherent sensuality, shattered societal norms. Her pinup poses, once seen as risque, now feel like an anthem for self-expression. Betty's boldness wasn't just an act of rebellion. It was a proclamation of self-ownership. She wielded her image as a form of power, not for approval, but for liberation. This act, daring in its time, planted the seeds of modern body positivity, paving the way for future generations to reclaim and redefine their own narratives of beauty and confidence. Bettie Page is more than just a pinup model. She's a muse for anyone who seeks to challenge norms and celebrate individualism. Her impact spans from rockabilly fashion to feminist ideals, from graphic novels to tattoo art. Her short career left an indelible mark on our culture, and her image continues to inspire modern artists, musicians, and advocates of empowerment. Bettie's life, her disappearance, and eventual resurgence make her one of the most compelling and influential figures of the past century. Today, Bettie's influence reverberates louder than ever. Her legacy has transcended her era, becoming a beacon for women who find strength in their physicality and joy in their individuality. In a world where diverse expressions of beauty are increasingly celebrated, we mirror Bettie's experience by refusing to be boxed into societal expectations. Like her, we understand that loving our bodies and showcasing them, whether through fashion, fitness, art, or unabashed self-expression, is a form of defiance against a culture that once sought to silence and shame us. Bettie's image, timeless yet transformative, serves as a reminder that the power to shape how we are seen and how we see ourselves is ours. Every pose we strike and every choice we make to honor our bodies reflects the eternal muse she was and continues to be for a world still learning to embrace its own reflection. Thank you for watching MUSE+MUSE. If you enjoyed learning about Bettie Page's legacy, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more videos where we celebrate the iconic muses who shaped our culture and continue to inspire us today.